U.S. bankruptcy courts report that Minnesota has been the leading state for farm bankruptcies in the first quarter of 2026.
To look more into the data, Evan Berg spoke with an extension economist at the University of Minnesota about what financial stressors farmers are currently facing.
There's been production challenges in recent years. The markets have been challenging. Input costs remain increased. And so if you were starting that in a weaker point, navigating the last few years has not been easy.
Heading into 2026, 8 farms across Minnesota filed for Chapter 12 bankruptcy, giving the state the highest rate of farm bankruptcy between January and March for that quarter. Pauline Van Nerden, an economist with the University of Minnesota, says for most farmers, this year has seen an improvement in growing conditions.
I think in terms of profitability for 2026 crop, honestly, I think farms probably were going into the crop year in an okay financial position.
Van Nerden says the farmers who are likely struggling the most are first-time farmers and farmers who may be juggling multiple financial stressors from previous years.
Unfortunately, I think the people that have been struggling as of late continue to struggle.
Van Nerden says those struggles are also reflected in a rise in defaulting loans, forcing some farmers into lender remediation with their creditors. In 2026, there have been over 1,300 notices of remediation.
The highest level they've been since 2020. So it's a segment of the population is experiencing stress for sure.
But despite these trends, Nerden says there is no immediate cause for concern for most farmers.
I think the bigger concern in farmers' minds right now is what does 2027 look like, given fertilizer cost uncertainty with all the geopolitical dynamics.
For farmers that are dealing with that uncertainty right now, she recommends having an honest conversation with creditors so they can know their options ahead of time. Evan Berg, KEYC News Now.
For farmers looking to navigate financial stress, the University of Minnesota says the state does provide services that can help. Minnesota Farm Advocate Program can provide free advice for farmers in financial crisis with expertise in agricultural lending practices, mediation, and crisis counseling.